He's not taking his sneakers off. He is Academic O'Toole. Remember that? Remember Sneakers O'Toole? Ahoy, gang. If this is your first time with us, welcome. And if you're joining us for a previous video, hey, we'd love to see it, and I hope you're doing well. I gotta say, I know a lot of people are upset that the seasons are getting shorter and shorter and shorter, but as a critic, I kinda love it. Because there's only 15 episodes of this Family Guy season, and I decided to put them all in one mega video because why not? So this is episode 1 to 15 reviewed for your viewing pleasure. I've put timestamps if you want to skip to a specific episode, because some episodes are 15 minutes about one. Others are, 3 or 4 minutes, because there's just not that much to say. So it will also include the last 2 episodes of the season that I didn't talk about in their own videos, because we'll get into it. It's just, yeah, this has been a season. So if you're looking for that good old academic whole season review flair, you've come to the right place. So how good, bad was season 24? Well, there's only one way to find out, and 3 questions that must be asked. What worked? What failed? What anthology madness will be curtailed? There's so many anthologies. I promise I'm not too much of a bore, so try not to snore as we review season 24. The Edible Arrangement. At the time of recording this, they had actually just broke the news that Stewie was getting a spin-off series, a 2-season order where he goes to kindergarten and goes on wacky magic school bus adventures. Had this come out, say, season 14-ish, around the end of the Cleveland show, I think this might have been an absolute success. That sounds exactly like the kind of thing a Family Guy audience would clamor to. Nowadays, I do not see the Stewie show lasting that long. I mean, Ted was good. 2 seasons of Ted. I would have liked the 3rd season, honestly. We're not getting a 3rd season of Ted. They confirmed that everything's just kind of wrapping up with this 3rd movie, and that's that for the Tedverse. But yeah, no, Family Guy is definitely not a series that I think could survive another spin-off, and this episode is kind of the reason why. Over 24 seasons, realistically, I would say this started showing up more around, say, season 7. We've started to see the characters' morals just sort of go out the window. The family exists for the sake of jokes. Where there was once a genuine heart that cared for classic television and film, now it is a cynical, pulsing core that could be misconstrued as a heart. Like, okay, let's get into the episode proper. So, there's a new dispensary in Quahog, and everyone's excited to go in and buy marijuana. Yay! And Peter talks to Cleveland about all the white guys with dreads dating all the black women and how there's a plan for that. And okay, all right, felt like that joke went on for maybe just 15 seconds too long. It's so odd because you see these jokes and they could work, but it's like they're padding for time, and the episodes are only 21 minutes long. And that's so frustrating because we have this whole thing where Brian gets his edibles and Stewie wants a cookie, and Lois says, no, you can't have your cookies. You're a little baby boy. Let me put them in this locked cupboard with these edibles so that they're held in a safe location. And then Stewie gets into the Oreos and has an edible and gets addicted to the feeling of being high. He takes some other kids up to the roof where they could be high together, and I mean, admittedly, that joke did get me when he's talking about, like, of course we're high, we're on the roof. It's like, you know what, that's dumb enough to tickle me pink. I like that. Keep going with that. Keep running with that energy, not, oh, the teacher caught him being high and now he's going into protective custody with Joe while Lois and Peter finish their parental mandatory trainings. And yeah, that's our lead into the A story. And it goes on for 9 minutes of a 20-minute episode. So you've got like 11 minutes to really sink your teeth into. And the rest of it is Stewie at the Swanson house, where Joe pretends to be the funniest guy in any room, and how he's going to write for the Follies, and Bonnie is miserable. And it just feels so tired and dated. I'm so worn down on what this newer Family Guy is trying to do. It just makes everyone look bad for the sake of the joke. You know, and I hate comparing the two, but I feel like we have to. American Dad, the characters are still the characters. You may get a Fox era Steve episode or a little bit more shallow of a Haley episode, but everything they do is on brand for them. Now, you know, Meg has gone from wanting to be one of the popular kids to being like, yeah, I can grab a man whenever I want to. Come on now, why am I failing these, you know, sexual harassment trainings? It's like, she's 16 or something. Like, what? Why is this a focus? Why is this where you're writing Meg? I don't care what you do with Peter. I don't care what you do with Lois. Oh, look at that. Chris is just a chronic masturbator, and Brian exists to get high and write terrible books, which, you know, those are still character traits. Those have been referenced on those characters for well over a decade at this point, and maybe I just wished it was something fresh. But alas, it isn't. And again, this is the 450th episode of the entire series. And halfway through, Stewie decides he needs a break from all of Lois's new rules, steals some of Brian's edibles, pops one for himself, and drops two, thanks to the advice of a Bill Cosby in his head, in his mom's wine. So when she drinks her chewy wine, she also gets high, and she is high with her baby, and they bond. And it's supposed to be a heartfelt moment, except it does nothing. Like, okay, this is the first time that they can actually communicate with one another. And they have that heart-to-heart where, you know, Stewie's like, I always wished I could kill you, Lois. I'm not good at the voices. But it's like, okay, Stewie tells Lois that he wants to kill her because he feels like she's walked on and he doesn't want that for himself. Okay, kind of nuanced take, I guess. Except, is Lois walked on all the time? Constantly? Really feels like she wears the pants in the family a lot of the time, and doesn't really feel like that's part of her character? You could argue that about Francine in some episodes, absolutely. But to say that Lois is just sort of walked on, it just doesn't feel like that's worth 450 episodes of build-up, or, you know, we finally decided to make an episode where Lois and Stewie talk to each other, and they go and watch The Big Lebowski, and really awkwardly thank the theater attendant that also is their waiter when they go to IHOP. Yeah. Character. Like, you have an opportunity to actually do something. To do something earnestly. You could do something that can impact the rest of the show. American Dad wrote Jeff off. They killed Jeff off, and that was during the Fox era. Like, they weren't afraid to do those kinds of experiments, to make those references. Now, you know, Joe's a joke when he was the hero cop next door. Peter is just kind of there. And then you have, I don't even know what Stewie is. Stewie's getting a spin-off, but Stewie changes every other season. What's he gonna be? He's still a kid. He's not really the evil mastermind who wants to take over the world anymore. I genuinely can't think of the last time he's tried to kill Lois, so I don't even know why this is a topic that's being brought up as like a frequent thing. It just feels out of place and yet somehow overdone. Like, this is a chance for Alex Bornstein and Seth MacFarlane to really pour their hearts out as these characters, to really have that emotional grip. And it just feels flat. It feels almost like they made this to just get people to talk about it. And in that regard, it worked. Because by the end of the episode, they're sobering up and she forgets everything that she talked about with him and he threatens to kill her again. Ooh, I'm gonna get you. Like, oh, so none of this mattered. None of this had any weight or gravity or anything. And like, you could do that once. You could do that twice in a show. You could do that 5, 6, 7 times. But we're well into the dozens of times this has happened throughout Family Guy at this point, where that return to normal is the joke, where any heart you might have thought would be in an episode, any amount of growth, any amount of narrative depth, the fact that you thought that is the joke. And now it returns to normal. It always returns to that same normal. Even though The Simpsons shows growth, shows additions. Remember when Comic Book Guy got married? There's new storylines with her. I still think The Simpsons should be canceled, but at least there is reason for it to exist. At least they are adding to their narrative. They are not writing themselves into a corner. Here, especially this season, Family Guy just feels like they're patting their knees and going, how else can we fill 20 minutes? I don't know, man. Maybe edibles and then like a Bill Cosby joke? World War II? Yeah, World War II. We make a World War II reference. Cool. Glad we had this talk. How many more episodes do we have to fill? 18? So that's, yeah. No, it's just, I've had to watch this episode 3 times. Initial watch, a rewatch, and then a watch before I recorded this. And yeah, no, it just never struck. It never hit. There was never a moment where I felt a deeper connection to these characters. And I can feel that in an episode of American Dad where Stan's powering through his illness and then gets mega bat pangolin disease and turns into a mutant freak. That is more relatable than 2 people eating edibles and having a heart-to-heart. And I gotta be honest with you, that should be Uno reverse card. That should be completely different. And yet, this episode just makes me sad for what Family Guy's become. It's just not good. It's not entertaining. It just floats there. An edible arrangement is a urine bag draining 2 out of 10. Pumpkin Spice Girls! I can describe this episode so easily, and that's a bad thing. That is an astronomically bad thing. Like last episode, okay, it's a heart-to-heart between Stewie and Lois. We can't have anything else going on. This needs to be our focus. This is our sit down and appreciate that we still care about this show, that we are still trying new elements. Here it is. Here are these great, delightful little scenes that you have been wanting. Here's why Stewie wants to hurt Lois. Here's why Lois feels underappreciated. We have these elements. And then we get into Pumpkin Spice Girls. Peter blows up the bathroom, just completely eviscerates it, and they need to use a different bathroom because Peter blew up their bathroom. Oh boy, what a setup. What a lead into an A story. And I'm no prude. If we look at, say, Fart Break Hotel from American Dad, the entire episode is kicked off because Roger gets such bad gas, he gasses everyone out. But that's literally just so that they can change locales. That's just so that they can get to the hotel where everyone else can have their stories, where they can go on their adventures, where Francine can take on someone else's identity. It is our inciting incident. Roger's farts. And that's one of my favorite Fox era American Dad episodes of all time. Like, genuinely, it's a good episode. So it's not me being like, oh, gross potty humor. Gah, come on now. I expect something more highbrow from my Family Guy. No, I expect Family Guy to be dumb. I want Family Guy to be dumb. Family Guy from the earliest seasons was creatively stupid. You know, Peter has always been a moron, but it was the heart behind it that gave that moronity some amount of genuine heart. Now he's reading pickup artist books and learning how to neg. Again, love when Stan's doing the whole red pill, you gotta stay macho, and like, you could absolutely hear Stan listening to Manosphere podcasts, and that works for his character. This Peter is just saying whatever he wants to, doing whatever he wants to, and is very, very flat in his presentation. It is just the most hollow thing imaginable. Like this episode. You know, I'm 3 minutes into the review of this episode, haven't even gotten into the guts of it, because it takes 30 seconds to explain. So they need to go to a new bathroom. They go to a coffee shop bathroom. Lois sees that it's pumpkin spice latte season, does a bunch of coffee puns, gets Meg hooked on pumpkin spice lattes, because that's what white women do, and that's the episode. They get addicted to pumpkin spice lattes. Lattes are discontinued as a seasonal treat. They steal the pumpkin spice latte recipe, and they start giving it out to all the other white women in the neighborhood because Bonnie starts blackmailing them, and eventually they go mad with power and have to be rescued. And like, I know it's like, well, you can have a simple premise if the jokes are sharp. The jokes aren't sharp. All these jokes feel stale. They feel so boring. It feels like the writers just dug around in a bunch of Cavalcade skits they had sitting around from Cavalcade was 2008, I want to say. So 18 years at this point. And they just went, yeah, that'll work. Bill Gates, Epstein Island. There we go. And it's just like, why? Who is this for? Alex Bornstein sounds bored throughout this entire episode. Mila Kunis sounds like modern day Mila Kunis. I mean, I have not seen a role where she's tried in a minute, and it certainly wasn't here. Oh, but it's okay. I mean, sometimes a really boring A story gives you a really refreshing B story. And what's the B story here? There isn't one. It just cuts between Lois and Meg stealing pumpkin spice latte and distributing it, and Joe hunting them down. I don't know what it is with this new fascination with Joe, but he is just not that heavy of a character. He is not that developed of a character that you can just hinge the entirety of the antagonistic force on him. And I get that. I love Patrick Warburton. He's one of my favorite voice actors of all time. He's a very funny guy, but they've flanderized and manipulated what Joe is to the point that he's a mockery of the character. Joe doesn't have that competent, understanding, professional air to him that he had when he was first introduced. At what point would modern day Peter feel jealous of Joe? It just doesn't work. And I mean, sure, you need a cop hunting them down. So of course you get Joe. But it doesn't fit. It doesn't gel. There's no cohesion. And that's what upsets me the most, is this story is not strong enough to be a sole A story. You need something to cut away to. Have Chris be doing something. Have Stewie, watching Brian at the coffee shop, and he keeps saying cliches as he's writing along. Something, anything to break up the monotony. Instead, you just get more of the same. Oh, wow. Quagmire has a collection of all the feet of the neighborhood, and he calls it the Feet Book, and they keep telling him to drop the so it's less wordy. Oh wow, they arrested him because he has a database of all the women's feet of Quahog. Neat. That's so funny. And they deliver all of these jokes so monotone, so baseline. I mean, I'm not asking for the sun and the stars here. I am asking for these people to say any joke with their whole chest out. It's like they're afraid of showing anything genuine. They're afraid of showing any amount of care. And I'll say it, that's why Bob's Burgers wins awards and Family Guy doesn't. That's why American Dad is hailed as the funniest of the Seth MacFarlane shows by anyone that really gives it a chance. Because those shows evolve, they adapt, they change their characters up, but they never flanderize them. They never tear them down to their core concepts. They add more elements to them. This is just clap because they do something. This is, look at them, they're mermaids swimming through white woman things, Temu, and romantic comedies. Am I right, fellow viewers? High five, pumpkin spice, high five, Anchorman quotes. This episode feels like what you would expect a parody of Family Guy to be. It is the laziest experience I have experienced in modern memory. And I'm caught up on this season. It's bad, gang. I don't really have anything more to say than that. It is just the most lukewarm Family Guy viewing experience I have had in a minute. Where at least the edible arrangement had some amount of heart, some amount of care. Pumpkin Spice Girls is just empty. It's empty calories. It is a soulless, passionless, nothing episode. Pumpkin Spice Girls is a Feet Book sponsored 1 out of 10. Manfest Destiny! So much Bo and Yang. I wanted to at least get this episode done, so we had 3 American Dad reviews and 3 Family Guy reviews. 3 compare and contrast, you know? The first episode of the new American Dad season, it was a probing episode. The second episode, we get a Twilight Zone episode, and it was fantastic. A good, dark log flume episode. That's a treat. And then the most recent episode, Powering Through, delightful, fantastic, an elevated idea of what a Fox concept could be. I loved all 3 of these episodes in their own ways. The premiere was the weakest one. So it's only fair to give Family Guy some grace. You know, the show has been around for 24 seasons. It's been around since the 90s. It's okay for it to slip a little bit. I will admit I was probably a little too harsh on the edible arrangement. It did at least try something new. And it's very ironic because when I look at the newest episodes of American Dad, I go, oh, wow, this is just getting better and better. And looking at the new season of Family Guy, I go, oh, wow, this is just getting worse and worse. How is each episode progressively worse than the last? How are we at this point? And it doesn't pull up. There isn't a chance for you to go, oh, well, you know, you got to get through the first 7 episodes and then it turns around. And like, I'm 6 episodes deep. I haven't seen it. It's not there. But, okay, what's the plot of this episode? Well, Peter and the gang get stranded on Fire Island and have to escape. And Stewie writes a book that's super successful and makes Brian jealous. But don't worry, it's not that story you've seen before, because the book he wrote is a bunch of memes he's put together as a book and is becoming a huge sensation because he says the right memes at the right times. Remember when Brian became a huge sensation for reading the right tweets at the right times and becoming a successful stand-up artist? Remember that? Oh, Peter and the gang are on Fire Island and realize that they're surrounded by gay guys that appreciate them, but they're also a bunch of uggos, and when they have to pay for staying on this resort island, they leave and they try and run away so that they don't have to pay. Meanwhile, Brian is trying to destroy Stewie for posting memes. Now, I would argue I'm a chronically online person. I'm an internet micro-celebrity that reviews cartoons on YouTube. I am not above memes. In fact, I would dare say I'm a little experienced in meme culture. One could argue that memes are the newest art form of culture in general. You know, it's a way for us to communicate. If you can go an entire day talking with someone just through memes, that is an art form. It is a craft. You know, it may be simplistic to some. Some need those super avant-garde, extra deep fried memes to really tickle their brain pickle. But these are not those memes. These are bad luck Brian era, you know, kid with his fist up going, yeah. It is 2 meme generations away from being Facebook minion memes that your grandma shares. And it's just, who is this series for? Because it's not Gen Z. Their meme culture is completely different than, say, millennial meme culture, which this is also not for, because millennials really sort of went much deeper with their memes, which is less like, yeah, go millennials, and more, they need to get a stronger and stronger hit to get that same dopamine dose because we are ruined from our online viewing culture. It's okay, I'm right there with you. No, this is like late millennial, early boomer generational viewership. This is, you know, oh, I remember that from 17 years ago. What a funny meme. This entire episode felt like it was just the actors reading their lines. Not even saying it with like any proper inflection, not adding any heart, not adding any twist to it. Just, there it is. These are the lines. I am saying what I want to say. At least Pumpkin Spice Girls didn't cut away to something that was even more boring than the A story. At least it didn't just hit all the brakes and go, now hang on, gang, let's see Stewie read memes at a book reading. I'm gonna ask you this, gang, because I'm a professional, you're a professional, I assume. When's the last time you went to a book reading? When was there a book reading near you? Do you know that off the top of your head without Googling it? Do you actively go to book readings? If you do, congratulations. You're probably too highbrow for this show at this point. It feels like this show exists in a time capsule, where American Dad, you know, you can argue Langley is present day, and they keep quoting and referencing things, but they never dedicate like an entire episode to it. Unless it's, say, Starboy, where The Weeknd was there, and they acknowledge that The Weeknd not only exists, but that The Weeknd is, you know, this magical virgin. Or Kim Kardashian being an alien. Very rare instances of the real world creeping into American Dad. Familyguy exists as this, like, microcosm, this pocket universe, where you have all of these things going on, all these references, but the references are made by people that refuse to stay fresh and topical. They refuse to evolve their writing style. And it's not, you know, it's not just a Family Guy problem. Simpsons does it too. Look at Bob's Burgers. When they started going darker and darker and darker and darker, and then you get to about Wharf Horse, right? Season 4. Then they start to pivot a little bit. Then they start making it a little bit more lighthearted, a little bit more family-centered, and a little bit more emotional. And that doesn't make it bad. It makes it drastically different, sure. But there were perfectly good episodes in those later seasons that brought tears to my eyes. You know, Bob's Burgers has learned how to pivot to increase its longevity. Even in these newest seasons, they're still trying new things. Quahog is getting smaller and smaller. The family is interacting less and less creatively. It feels like they're retreading and treading water because they know they don't have the creative energy anymore to come up with something even an iota original. And I'm so tired of it. You have Jay Farrow. You have Josh Robert Thompson. These are objectively funny people that are really, really talented, both as, voice actors and as writers. And then you have this show that just doesn't feel inspired at all. Family Guy is like 15 years due for doing anything, even remotely creative, to spice things up. Think about it. When's the last time a new character was introduced not because the previous voice actor passed? When's the last time the family did something genuinely creative? And you could say, the edible arrangement, and I would go, sure, all right. Before that, when did I get an episode that made me feel actually positive and not go, why is Mark Twain an OnlyFans model that wants to make prawn with fake boobs? Why is this a thing? Why are we doing this? You are not cooking. This episode made me regret making this video series. And I know there's going to be people chomping at the bit in the comments to go, watching this video made me regret watching this video series. And I'm sure your Discord will love you for making that joke. But I am just burnt out on this. This is dull. It's flavorless. This is the kind of Family Guy you throw on when you don't want to offend your grandpa while watching in the same room as him, and he can complain about those heckin' Gen Zers and laugh and clap because the people on Fire Island are gay, and he is not gay, so it is amusing to him. It's just, it's not even like rose-colored glasses. I've been going back through the older seasons of the show. Old Family Guy was sharp. It was funny. It had some teeth to it. This Family Guy, just let it end. I have yet to see an episode this season that actually brings it home, that actually gives you something to laugh at, to enjoy. I'm so depressed, man. It just didn't stick the landing. Manifest Destiny is a memercism suffering. 1 out of 10. Bringing up Brady. Okay, you know what? I feel like we need to talk about the B story of this episode first. Because the B story is at least a, I guess, creative idea. Stewie wants a new crib that's not a hand-me-down, so Brian and Stewie go to IKEA and decide to live in an IKEA. And yeah, that's the whole B story, is they throw a dinner party in an IKEA and mock IKEA for existing and all the problems with IKEA. Because they're always around airports and they have you build your furniture yourselves. And like, that's fine, I guess. But IKEAs have been around in the US for a minute now. This feels like, again, a B story that would do really, really well like 10 seasons ago. It's like they're allergic to being topical and then try and be topical. It makes no sense to me. Much like, again, Pumpkin Spice Girls, had this come out, say, 9-8 years ago, would have probably been an okay B story. Now they're just using the same tired jokes everyone that's ever made fun of an IKEA has already used. And that was never Family Guy shtick. They were always, let's be topical and let's make references that, people may not get, but they're going to laugh at them. Now it's tying up Orville Redenbacher's grandson and, yeah, having a dinner party at an IKEA. It just never lands. It's just just kind of sad. And yet, again, I have to reiterate, as depressing as it may be, best part of the episode, right? Best element to the whole thing. Because if we go into the A story, I might have an aneurysm, because it's just so frustrating. You know what? I'm just going to take a brief aside here and go, I enjoyed the second season of Ted. I enjoyed it better than the movies. And honestly, they almost made me forget that it was an AI Bill Clinton that Seth MacFarlane was voicing. Almost. But for the majority of the series, hey, that's a good watch. I enjoy The Orville. I love American Dad. Cleveland Show had its moments. And if you couldn't tell by my reviews of Family Guy, I like Family Guy too. I loved Family Guy. Family Guy shaped my comedy. And when I think back to the episodes I watched as a kid, a ton, one of my absolute favorites was Patriot Games. You remember Patriot Games? You remember when Peter was at his high school reunion and, pushed through everybody, and Tom Brady, played by Tom Brady, brought him onto the Patriots, and they had a gas, Shaboopy? Straight up had no idea Shaboopy was from something else. Thought that was a Family Guy original. Of course it wasn't. Of course it was just a musical number. But what a fun episode. You had Jay Leno in there. You had Bob Costas. And you had that eternal rivalry between Peter and Tom Brady. Oh, what a gas. What a delightful episode. What an episode that I can go back and revisit at any point and enjoy like I was a kid again. I loved Patriot Games. Why do I bring this up? The A story of this episode has Peter and the guys super excited to meet Tom Brady now that he's retired and commentating. Tom Brady retired in 2023, so even this is again dated. Meg starts working at the stadium as a vendor, and because she works as a vendor, she can get closer to Tom than anyone else. So, of course, Peter tries to use her to get close to Tom Brady, and she eventually helps Tom become the best commentator he can be by feeding football information into his ear to give him an upper edge. Now, okay, you know what? We had James Woods as a recurring character who was played by James Woods, and, I'll say it. I enjoy James Woods in Family Guy. I think he's great. I think he was one of the funniest elements of the show. And going back to Woods was a fantastic idea, had a great execution, and every time we keep seeing James Woods after that was fun. Okay, so obviously this is the return of Tom Brady. Tom Brady just wanted to come back and play Tom Brady again and have a new rivalry with Peter. Nope. Tom Brady in this episode is played by Josh Robert Thompson. And I need to be abundantly clear, I love Josh Robert Thompson. I think he's one of the funniest guys out there. He played Jeff the Skeleton on The Late Late Show with Craig Ferguson. He is an absolutely fantastic impersonator, and he has been on Family Guy before. He is a fantastic voice actor. He deserves all the flowers. He's great. Watch the Red Letter Media videos he's on. You're gonna have a great time. He is not the problem with the episode. The episode is really just showing what it's gonna be now. None of it matters. It's an episode. That's it. You're going to watch it. You're gonna tune in next week. This is what Family Guy is now. No callbacks to Jay Leno. Peter and Tom have never met before. And it's the same as if George H.W. Bush moved in next to The Simpsons again, except now he's played by Kevin Michael Richardson. They don't do anything with it. All they do is Tom Brady doesn't think Meg is attractive, so Meg makes him propose to her on air, and then he does, and then she backs out of it, and credits roll. It doesn't do anything. There's no moment where it gets wacky or weird or wild in any stretch of the imagination. It's just bad. I don't understand. I don't get it. How can you have an episode like this? Not even get Tom Brady back. Not even try. Don't make any references to, again, the previous time Peter engaged with the Patriots at all. But they keep slipping rings away by shoving them up various orifices, I guess. I am left so confused and stressed and annoyed. Because when I think back to that golden era of Family Guy, Patriot Games is like one of the best episodes they had in that initial, 2005 to 2008 run. And I would argue it is still one of the strongest episodes the show has ever had. So when you have all of these same elements and do nothing with them, it just shows you don't care anymore. And the worst part is, the show's confirmed for like 2-3 more seasons. Why? Where is the heart? Where is the spirit in this episode? I don't mean to disparage a show that I know a ton of people still love and enjoy. But, I mean, you have to admit, the writing has gotten so lazy, so uncreative. There is so many easy adjustments you could have made to this episode to really make it shine. But it seems like they're allergic to having characters care about anything. Even take Meg this episode. It's another Meg episode. Oh boy, so many Meg A stories. Serving them up sunny side Meg. She's a chowder vendor, but she's from New England, so she has to know football and coaches Tom Brady on how to talk about football. Okay. And then Tom Brady says that she's not that attractive while she hears it in her earpiece. Okay. And why would he never let her on. He never made her think that he was only taking her help because he found her attractive. It felt like the weirdest way to add conflict into an episode. And the payoff is a shrug? I guess? It just doesn't do anything. It spins its wheels for 22 minutes. I was left scratching my head going, wait, that's it? That's the whole thing? Nothing happened. I cut away to IKEA and they're putting people up in the rafters because they're getting suspicious? I get it. It seems like they tried 2 ideas, went, yeah, we don't have anything, but the episode's made, and walked away. It doesn't do anything. It accomplishes nothing. It wastes your time. It is a genuine time waste of an episode. Didn't make me laugh. Didn't have any elements that were, particularly stand out. It was people like Josh Robert Thompson and Jay Farrow doing impressions that they're really good at, and the Family Guy crew interacting with those. That's about it. Now, if they're padding because they don't know how to fill a 22-episode season, make 13-episode seasons. Make 10. Make Hulu holiday specials. I don't care. Anything's better than this. This is hollow. This is flavorless, like the clam chowder spraying from her chowder gun. This brings no joy. I'm really trying not to be a hater, but this is the worst episode of Family Guy I've seen in a minute, and I can't keep quiet about that. Bringing up Brady is a roof sliding 1 out of 10. Dear Francis. Hey, all right. You know what? I'm gonna tell you how the sausage is made here, gang. You clicked on the video because you were like, "Oh, he did what? I can't wait to hate on the academic for booing one of my favorite episodes, the one where Brian does a Tony Montana impression." that's just that's gonna burn me. I'm gonna comment about it. Some of you didn't even watch this one. Some of you are jumping straight to that episode to hear me go, I think we should have season 2 of Border Town. Spoilers. Gotcha. That's right. I knew you'd come back and click this part and be like, ooh, he got us. I don't know what this is. I wanted to do all of these reviews because I didn't want to have to watch Dear Francis one more time to remember it before talking about it. This episode is so bad, it made me want to review 8 episodes just to get it over with. Just so I could move on. Peter and Lois are getting busy after she finds an attraction to Peter with his baseball cap turned around, and Peter proceeds to moan the name Francis, which Lois takes as Francis, Peter's dead dad, not Francis, new bar employee that happens to be a woman. Peter is convinced by his boys to keep Francis a secret and play along with the idea that he moaned his dead dad's name while sleeping with his wife and has to go to therapy. And I think I know what bothers me so much about this episode. There's no lead-in story. You know, Family Guy traditionally has a lead into the A story and sometimes a B story. It's usually just 2 family members doing shenanigans, usually Stewie and Brian. But they always have a lead-in adventure. You know, a great example of this would be like No Meals on Wheels. You know, Peter has a onesie pajama suit and discovers the power of static electricity. He starts shocking everyone. This causes them to get the carpet pulled up, and then they find a very valuable coin that allows them to open their restaurant and not serve Joe and the rest of the differently abled wheeled warriors. There is no lead-in to, I moaned my dad's name while sleeping with my wife. Like, there's no drastic escalation and then normal story, or normal story, drastic escalation. It's just, hey, it's time to do therapy. Here, go on wacky adventures with each of your kids, like Meg going to chicken fights, or Chris negging Peter into home insurance, because that's what they all do. That's what's fun for everybody. This is bonding. There's no B story. There's no B story to this episode at all. There's nothing here. And then, when Lois finds out that sure enough there is actually a waitress named Francis, and that's who he was moaning about, she naturally gets upset. Even though there's plenty of episodes where she's thought about other men, or wanted to be with other men, or... I can't say what else she's done, otherwise I'll get demonetized. But it's just like, this doesn't work. It doesn't feel earned. And it's so frustrating, because I think if this episode was written around the time that Charles Dance actually passed away, I think the writing would have been sharp enough to handle a concept like this. Sure, people would liken it to North by North Quahog, where, you know, Peter and Lois have to rekindle their romance because Lois keeps imagining Mel Gibson instead of Peter when they're making love. Huh. That sounds kind of familiar. Don't worry. By the end of the episode, Lois has forgiven him, because she sometimes will moan Chris because she's thinking of Chris Hemsworth. Peter thought she was moaning Chris because of their son. And I guess that was okay for him? None of this feels, or like the letter on Francis's grave and everything. It was just hollow. It'll go back to normal next week. Family Guy does not really have any integrity left. Let's be honest here. There is nothing in this old Ghost and Bones. It's just sad. Like, I genuinely enjoy, in a very morbid and twisted way, watching episodes of Family Guy that I know I'm not gonna like. Knowing that I'm gonna be miserable the entire time. And sometimes it's because they are just, you know, wow, how did this pass through all these checkpoints and somehow still come out like this? Dear Francis isn't like that. Dear Francis is empty. And it's so heartbreaking because the therapist is actually played by Alfred Molina, Doc Frickin' Ock. And if you've been on the channel, you know I love me some Alfred Molina. And he feels so underutilized. I'll admit it, he has a couple good jokes. This was an episode I did yuck a couple times at, mostly because of his therapist. But it's, yeah, there has not been an episode of this season that I enjoyed revisiting. And I've had to revisit all of them for multitudes of reasons. This is bad. Dear Francis is a ticket acquiring Leon the Professional 2 out of 10. It's bad. It's very, very bad. Viewer DM. Okay. So I know I haven't really gotten to it in my reviews yet. I have all of my Blue Harvest stuff written down. Like I go in depth on it. I go into the celebration of, parody done right. Like, you have to remember, Blue Harvest was a celebration. It was a big time in pop culture. Everybody knew about Blue Harvest. Everybody loved Blue Harvest. It did really, really well in DVD sales. Like, Blue Harvest was considered one of the greater parodies. Now, that was 45 minutes to cover one movie, and 45 minutes to cover every Star Wars movie after that. 4, 5, and 6. But, I don't need to see the prequels done in that way, and I don't need to see the Abram whatevers done that way either. Like, Family Guy may not have ever had an in-theaters movie, but it had so many cultural events and had such a dramatic impact on, culture as a whole. I would argue the use of cutaway gags in Family Guy encouraged our meme behavior today, and memes as a form of communication. Basically, what I'm saying is you're now roped into my 2.5-hour dissertation on the Star Trek episode Darmok, about the people that speak in idioms. Congratulations, you played yourself. Welcome to Trek Talk. All circles back because Seth MacFarlane is a huge Trekkie, you see. Man, he should really make a sci-fi show. I bet it would be just like TNG, but with Norm Macdonald. I bet that would sometimes be really good. Anyway, yeah. I loved Blue Harvest. I love when they do a good parody. I hate anthology episodes. Can't stand them. I've talked about it a little bit with Viewer Mail 1, and now here I am talking about it in Viewer DMs. And yeah, it's Viewer DMs because no one knows what mail is anymore. Ha 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 ha. Mailboxes don't exist. Hee ho, hee ho, hee ho. And so we have 3 different stories that people absolutely ask about. What happened to Chris's earring? What about when Family Guy did Oregon Trail? And of course, the Glenn Quagmire Variety Hour. One of those sounds intriguing enough. The first one is, how did Chris get rid of his earring? Oh, it's the entirety of the Lord of the Rings. And they even call attention to it. It's like, here's the Lord of the Rings in 6 minutes. You're welcome. Oh, look, we've got the same lazy, why didn't they take the Eagles to Mount Doom argument, despite the fact that the Eagles are sentient and didn't want to put their lives in danger, which is an understandable thing for birds when the enemy has tons of air control, including those giant Nezca whatever looking monsters. They always look like the Kazu from Monster Hunter. Horrible, horrible Kazu. Oh, obviously he's rambling because there's not a lot to say. You're right. You're absolutely right, random viewer. No, there isn't anything to really say. It's Lord of the Rings, except everyone's really low energy about it. Like, again, much like Dear Francis, I feel like if you took a swing at Lord of the Rings, 10 years ago, it might have actually been really good. I kind of would have wanted to see that. I would trust them because Blue Harvest, while it tapered towards the end, was still pretty good. I don't know. This just felt cheap and phoned in and really kind of upsetting because they still take the time to do an entire episode around Top Gun, but they won't even bother to try Lord of the Rings in 23 minutes? Nope, it's just, cornered in here. That's their Lord of the Rings. Look, it's Mork from Mork and Mindy as an orc. Ho ho. It's just a Robin Williams impression. Ho ho. It's so... I don't want to say it's bad. It's just so there. It's so lazy. It's you have tuned into Family Guy Sunday at 9. You have done this for 20 years. You will continue to do this for 20 years. This is Family Guy. You laugh when we tell you to laugh. And then they laugh. And they clap. And that's the episode. I can focus on the Lord of the Rings one because the next one is Oregon Trail, but Family Guy. And they have a lot of Megs, and the Megs keep dying from all of the Oregon Trailways as they make it to New England. And then they make it to New England, and then it's over. Get it? Because Oregon Trail is dysentery. Die me die. This episode sucks. It's so bad. It's just, there's no... I keep wanting to think of and here's a redeeming quality. And I try my best not to relate it back to American Dad too much. The too much is important. But it needs to be said. American Dad did the Oregon Trail thing better because it made them actually have to play Oregon Trail after getting digitized so that they could print off a little certificate to go and get them help after Roger traps them in a computer to make sure they're immortal. That's a great idea! This one, what if Peter plays Reverse Oregon Trail and then we go New England sucks? Family Guy. Okay, sure, fine. What's bringing it on home? Quagmire has a 1960s variety hour where he explains the jokes and then Peter's in the audience going, hey, stop telling us the jokes. It doesn't make it funny. Okay, sure. Why not? You got it. You got it, Yug. You got it. You play your dark magician. It's so... I don't know what that was. It was like a combination of Trump and Joey. It's just... Yeah. It's Quagmire's variety show. The worst part is I like the look of it. I love the... Again, going to American Dad. Rabbit ears. It nailed the aesthetic and then did nothing with it. Oh, look, it's making fun of the 60s, so the wives have scream bags, and you have stepson correctors, cause it's the 60s. Ha 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 ha, asbestos. It's just, again, who is the audience for Family Guy now? Is it millennials? I honestly don't think so. I think it's closer to Gen X. An early boomer, or late boomer. They're late bloomer boomers. LBBs. I just, it does not. I grew up with Family Guy, and I feel like I blinked, and I outgrew Family Guy. It's baffling to me. Sure, viewer DMs. I don't know, like a 2 out of 10 dog. Scent of a woman. Man, you really tuned into me loving on Family Guy, huh? You know what's messed up? You know what the worst part is? I kind of didn't hate this episode a ton. I didn't really love it either, but it's a very interesting one. It's, okay. So the A story is apparently Brian can smell cancer. Brian is a dog, and dogs can sometimes smell cancer. So, of course, Brian can smell cancer. And he smells cancer on one of Meg's sleepover friends' bras. So he thinks they should know that they might have breast cancer. So Meg tells him it's her bra. And so Meg thinks that she, in fact, has breast cancer. And if I had a nickel for every time Brian helped a griffin through a cancer scare, I'd have 2 nickels, which isn't a lot, but I'm surprised it happened twice. And it plays out exactly how you think it would. They want to go and make all of Meg's dreams come true by going to Orlando to have not Guy Fieri do trash can nachos for her and give her frosted tips. He'll even give her a $35 store credit. And you're like, cool. A Brian and Meg episode that is like the least weird one they've ever had together. So we take it. We take those. And it's okay. It's never particularly, amazing, but it's never particularly, again, offensive. And when that's the lowest bar we have, we jump over it and move on with our day. I mean, it's there. It's got a pulse. Some creative writing was used. The B story involves Peter trying to get Lois to tell him how many guys she's slept with, because he slept with a hearty 2, and she slept with a hearty 60. But they do it through truth or dare, so she keeps picking riskier and riskier dares just to get out of telling him devastating things, leading to the lesson of the episode: just lie. Marriage only works when you lie. And I think that really captures the spirit of modern Family Guy. It hates itself for being on. It hates existing. This is a Family Guy without a spirit. They are shambling along and pointing at you and mocking you if you ever try and review it. If you ever try and say, I miss old Family Guy, they spit in your face and tell you look weird. All because they don't know how to rent a bird scooter. I don't know either, but I'm not making it everyone else's problem. Like, it's the same overused jokes. Ha ha ha. Florida and ankle monitors. You are so accurate. Oh, Peter's moobs are so big they look like fake boobs. Oh, ho, 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 ho. Oh, classic Family Guy. I'm so glad my saltine of viewing material is still just as spicy as when I was a kid. Good on Meg for being severely constipated and drinking Gatorade on the toilet. I do that too. Like, okay, and this is the part where I have to be honest. Brian is kind of his best self in this episode. Like, yeah, he steals a girl's bra, but he does it for dog purposes. And I really, really appreciate that it's for dog purposes, that he just wants to chew on something and sniff it, and dogs do chew on bras. That is a thing. So I genuinely, the bar, again, very low. I appreciate that he does it for dog reasons. And then, he's genuine with Meg. He's genuinely caring about her. He wants to give her the best life she can have. He is doing right by Meg. And, Peter and Lois are at that point in their lives. They don't have a lot going on. Like, all things considered, this is probably one of the better episodes of the season. It's just, that's one of the better episodes of the season. That's where it lies. Scent of a Woman is an adult changing table, 500 pounds or less supported. 5 out of 10. Playtime. Okay, I see, and this is why you don't paint with broad strokes. This is why you don't throw the whole baby out with the bathwater. Just part of the baby, just a little bit of baby with the bathwater. It's playtime, which means it's time for an anthology episode. Except kinda not really. Viewer DMs did do this bit where they would always call back to, how bad a map was, or, oh, look at this band, it's comically long. Oh, what a good joke that we're gonna just run into the ground. Like the Mork bit. See, and by doing all these episodes together, I can reference previous reviews. By Jove, we figured it out. Season reviews, what a concept. But the Griffins are actually in a theater house putting on plays for everyone. They have the whole town playing different characters, and they are constantly referencing that this is an ongoing show, that they are, cutting between scenes, behind the scenes. You have the different shows bleeding into one another, and it's actually a little creative, which is why this is so frustrating. You give me viewer DMs, and then you give me something where you show you know how to do this. It's just, it's frustrating, because I imagine if these writers got to write what they wanted, it would be really, really good. But it just feels like they have to make sure the lowest common denominator fan is still laughing and clapping so that Disney can get the big Disney bucks. At least American Dad can be creative, because Family Guy, I think this is really as far as they can get. Which, there's another episode this season that I'm shockingly not dreading to talk about. It was okay. Good? I wouldn't go that far. Let's not get carried away. But it was watchable. Anyway, so yeah, everybody's putting on different plays, and it's actually a pretty fine spread. To Kill a Mockingbird, The Odd Couple, Hamlet, all classic fare. And it's there. It's just kind of there. No joke is like, oh wow, that got me. But it, does it pass the late night Adult Swim, do I change the channel quandary? You're sitting in bed or you're sitting on the couch. You don't really want to move. You don't know what's on another channel. You've got, Spike TV or MTV2 on the previous channel, ready to go, ready to click it. I'm feeling old. Don't worry. We're all old. Do you click the button? And I think it at least gets you to 2 commercial breaks before you're contemplating it, and by then it's already, 11:52, and Aqua Teen's coming on in 8 minutes, and are you really going to remember to go back? I don't think so. So you let the rest of it play out. And you get a perfectly okay conclusion to an episode. Honestly, The Odd Couple's probably the weakest of the 3. To Kill a Mockingbird, every time they come back to it, it's actually pretty funny. And Hamlet, I feel like they've done Hamlet before. I can't prove it, but that feels done before. I don't know. This is an episode that is tolerable to exist. Playtime is a suspended rafters supporting 4 out of 10. Phony, Montana. Here it is. Here's the episode. Where Brian does I can't say the word, otherwise I'll get demonetized. But you know what it is? Yay! Yay, he does one. I kind of think. We'll see. Let's get into it. All right. So, down at an immigration rally, Brian meets a girl. Carmen, played by Melissa Fumero of, Brooklyn Nine-Nine. So that's cool. And I will admit, when they go to the Havana Club on a date, the horns, when they're in the horn section, that got me. You want the horns louder. Yep, there we go. And low bar again. Very, very low bar. We didn't have Consuela. It would have been too much having Consuela in this episode, because this is already a lot. because this is just the A story, and there's still a B story to get into, gang. Anyway, after Brian spends some time with the Cuban population at the Havana Club, he picks up a Cuban accent and can't stop talking with it, and can't stop doing a Tony Montana bit, because Scarface is only 43 years young at this point. Seriously, who is this? Who is the audience now? I don't get it. Now, here is why I don't necessarily have that much problem with the A story. And it is selfish, and it is not me as a critic, it is me as a flawed viewer. Brian's Cuban accent is played by Carlos Alazraqui, and I really, really, really like Carlos Alazraqui. So anytime I can hear him just going off about things, I love it. And hearing him talk, hearing him in Mike Henteman Project, it made me miss Border Town. And I'll admit, after watching this episode, I went back and I watched all of Border Town again. And I was reminded, I really liked Border Town. And I am an imperfect person for enjoying it, I know. But it's those simple joys. And Carlos Alazraqui is a big part of why that show was so funny to me. Because he was Coyote and a ton of other characters, and it was great. This, it's supposed to get you. It's supposed to be like, wow, look at how, racy this episode is. Yeah, Brian's doing a real awkward thing. Except the entire time, Brian as a character is like, I've got to get over this. I've got to find a way to work around this. I don't want Carmen to think that I am just, making fun of her and her family. I don't want this. I feel like there's a better way to write this episode so that wasn't the central element. It's just not a great element. Other than, again, it being Carlos Alazraqui just sort of riffing for 20 minutes, which is fantastic. Oh, he's really focused on the A story, because the B story, it's normal, right? It's straight normal? I would say yes. I would say the B story is as normal as a Peter and Lois story can be. It's a lot. So Peter and Lois are on a couple's date with Crystal and Clay Duffy. Crystal being played by Rachel McFarlane. Why will that matter? Don't worry, it will. They have a wonderful time with the Duffys, and then Peter finds out that the Duffys are swingers. So Peter and Lois are, they really want to reject them. They really want to say no, but if they're offered, that sure would be flattering. They wouldn't say no that hard. And yeah, they start pushing Clay and Crystal to swing with them, and ultimately end up just sleeping together on the Duffy's floor in a fit of very twisted, angry passion. And it's probably the sweetest thing I've seen between Peter and Lois this season. They are very flawed people at this point. They are almost definitely only going to be with each other. They can't really go with anyone else at this point. I keep saying at this point, but it's true. And yeah, they're a lot, but I think that's just sort of the point of them now. They're always going to be a lot. And I can't hate it too much. I don't love the B story, but the B story is handled in the best way it could possibly have been handled. It's just, it's a lot to process, because you have Brian with a Cuban accent cut in with the swingers, Lois and Peter, just back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And it's like, whoa, pause, hang on now. Let me take a second to breathe here. And you never get it. You never get that moment to breathe. And I think that's the point. The episode is always trying to keep you laughing or distracted until 22 minutes are up and they all go home. there wasn't anything more other than Carlos Alazraqui riffing in a Cuban accent as the episode focus. And again, you have Alfred Molina, you have Melissa Fumero, you've actually got quite a few guest stars that are something. And then they're in an episode like this and never really get to, shine. It's just really disappointing. Phony Montana is a taken by ice. Yeah, that happens in the beginning so that Brian can get a date. A guy gets taken by ice. Clap and laugh. Phony Montana is like a 3 out of 10. A few more ways to die in the West. I'll give the show credit where it deserves credit. I was actually kind of blown away by this episode. Not only does it have a creative intro that's not just, let's tweak the intro just a little bit for a quick cutaway and then we go into the episode. They actually tell it like a full 22-minute adventure, and it's a Western. And I can't be mad at it. Still makes me a little upset that they didn't do a quick, Western Quick and the Dead about how Chris lost his earring or whatever, and then give us a whole episode of Lord of the Rings. But hey, no, let's do a Western where Peter is the Western shooter, the famed Quiet Burp, instead of Wyatt Earp. And there's Django Unclaimed instead of Unchained, and Vivian, the cane-wielding, not evil guy, and Stewie and Brian are also doing things. Oh, they were in the same improv troupe as John Wilkes Booth. Ho, 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 ho. I don't know. I can't be too mad at it. They attempted something. And in the intro, I think something very important happens. Most of the people shown are caricatures of people that worked on the show, and they all look happy. Obviously, why would you draw them miserable? What are you trying to insinuate? Of course you draw them happy. But this seemed like an episode idea that they at least approach with some amount of passion. There is at least some comedic wit at play. You can tell they put a lot of care into it, and it's incredibly predictable. Are you expecting some big twists from Family Guy? You're expecting too much, bud. You're expecting too much of a completely different show. This is not the show you come to for deep and engaging week after week adventures. This is where you get in and you get out. And this episode got in, danced a little bit, got out. It never overcomplicates itself. Who do you think the masked bandit is? Of course it's Lois. Of course it's Lois. Of course Peter and Lois run off and they get chased by the guys, and the guys all come back together and they're all friends, and then everything's happy for everybody, credits roll. That's it. That's the whole episode. However, it never tries to be more than that. It is a Western parody, and it is not pretending to be anything more than a Western parody. It's fine. It's perfectly okay. I thank my lucky stars. I don't have more to say. It's an episode I would perfectly believe happened in, season 10, except they keep making references to modern things, which does kind of take away from it. Like, well, who's that? Oh, don't worry. Your kids will know. Michael J. Fox. Oh, your kids will know that one too, or your great-great-great-grandkids. And like, okay. Sure, you say so. It's just, I really like the wet market. I'll admit it. The wet store got a lot out of me. You want oatmeal already ready for you? Already moist? Here you go. We got it. We got wet candy too. Like that genuinely got me. This was a good episode. I dare say it. I dare say this was good. It passes the previous channel test. It's something I wouldn't turn off immediately, even though I skipped this episode and didn't watch it until today, actually. I had watched all the other episodes before I recorded this, and then I was like, well, I have to watch this. It's just going to be, 3 different Westerns mashed into one. And no, it was one Western adventure. It never overcomplicated itself, and it was fine. Yeah, no, it is probably the best episode I have seen of the season, and that's still not saying much. A few more ways to die in the West is a Wild Wild West narrated 6 out of 10. Tall Stewie. Peter blows the ass out of his suit when he's at church and moons the entire congregation and humiliates Lois. Oh, hey, and look, the priest is still played by Stephen Root. Everybody's favorite Buck Strickland from King of the Hill, and, Glem from Strip Law. Hey, did you know there's a Strip Law review on the channel? Most people don't. You should check out Strip Law on Netflix. That's a good show. I like Strip Law. Strip Law is fantastic. It's got the new chief of InfoWars, Tim Heidecker, in there. So you get in there too. Okay, now I'm gonna give you the setups for this episode. Peter, again, blows the ass out of his suit. And the other story setup, Stewie goes to a sleepover. Okay. Both very reasonable and normal things for people to be doing. And where do these stories go? Let's start with the B story, the Peter and Lois story. Okay, so he blows the ass out of his suit and gets depressed and thinks Lois is, looking down on him. How does this go? Oh, he decides to get a dating app to see if women find him attractive and sees Lois on said dating app. And so he tries to trap her and make her admit to having a dating app so that she will admit to looking at other guys. And then it turns out that she was really doing it just to get back at Peter for being really horrible to her sometimes. And that's the whole thing. Like, okay, that's a pretty heavy thing to cut back from. So what's the A story? Is it, Stewie being bullied or pushed around? Stewie gets stilts because he likes being tall. And then Brian also gets stilts. And he too likes being tall. And they're tall together. And they dance and hang out with models. One of them is Sydney, played by Sydney Sweeney, and they dance, but it's hard to run and move in stilts, but they keep pretending to be tall by wearing these stilts. Are you amused yet? Are you amused by a baby and a dog getting it on with models with their stilt legs? It's too absurd. The juxtaposition is too much. Tall Stewie is nothing. It is empty calories, the episode. It is almost like a late season, Happy Days episode, where they're just like, sure, an alien crash lands, and, he gets into a jukebox fixing fight with the Fonz, and tune in for Mork and Mindy coming for, 3 seasons next year. It's there. They do have stilts. That's all they've done with the episode. And it's like, the stilt story is not funny. It's not funny at all. There's no moment where you're like, oh, the stilts paid off. Like, even going back to Phony, Montana, you still had, cocky jogger. I mean, at least it's a callback. You also had, Cleveland falling in his bathtub and all that, which was a little bit dated, but okay. It was kind of refreshing to see again. This doesn't have any of that. It's got awkward conversations, Peter sending, pics to his friends who keep telling him to stop sending them pics. And then it's got Stewie and Brian being tall-legged men. That's it. Don't overcomplicate it. You're gonna be disappointed. It's just, yeah, it's so much and so little. It's dead space, the episode. It is TV static by Family Guy. You put this on, you don't remember any of it. You swear the stilt part was only for like 4 minutes, not 16 on-screen stilt minutes. And tell yourself it's not real, it can't hurt you. But it is real, it can hurt you, and it's why your crops are ruined. It's just, ugh. Tall Stewie is a down swiping 3 out of 10. Lower G.I. Joe. Dr. Hartman informs Peter that it's that time of year and he's at that age where he should consider getting a colonoscopy. Wow, Dr. Hartman telling Peter he has to do something rectally. That, wow, that kind of sets me up perfectly for they already did this, but all right, let's see what direction this one goes. Yeah, so Peter and all of the guys decide to get colonoscopies together, and that way they do it all in solidarity and because they're bros, so they all go up to a cabin and they take their little colonoscopy cocktails and just destroy a log cabin. Just violently eradicate everything that cabin at any point could have ever stood for. It's, yeah. And then they do the colonoscopies. Everybody gets a colonoscopy done. I would love to have their insurance to afford colonoscopies with the boys. They then discover that Peter has a very rare G.I. Joe in his lower tract, and it's worth like $500,000. So Peter is really excited about all the money he'll have when they take the action figure out of him. And his friends get upset and sue for their part of the action figure that Peter ate of his own volition, that is inside his own body, that is now his. And then Chris has to point out that you can't claim this without claiming all the other stools Peter has collected from, which I hate that is a legally sound rebuttal. I hate that. I refuse that. Well, it's okay. It's okay. At least this seems relatively lighthearted. What's the B story? Brian goes to a rescue with Stewie and can't help grabbing little tabby kittens by the neck and shaking the life out of them violently. Just absolutely, disgustingly, graphically shaking them like he's trying to make them dry. And, oh look, Mayor Wild Wild West's small orange cat has gone missing, and they think that he went to the rescue where Brian shook a little kitten to death, so therefore he took out the mayor's kitten, and hijinks ensue. Oh look, the guys are trying to fight each other, but Peter wants to, give up the toy so that he and his friends can all be friends again, and we get the return of the lawyer character for like 2 lines. And I'll say it, the only real creative charm nowadays is whenever I hear Jay Farrow, and I really like his Brick Baker voice, and I like when he writes on the show. I think he's a funny guy, that Jay Farrow. But this episode, it's just a late night watch. It's there. It's padding for a streamer that wants to have an option. It's the, oh, well, this episode's playing, let me do some laundry and I'll come back and see what's going on every, 4 to 5 minutes and maybe I'll get a laugh, or, oh man, Brian just tore up another kitten. Ho, ho, ho. Oh, that's so shocking. I'll come back in another 4 to 5 minutes. Oh, he's doing it again. Oh, he must really like tiny felines. Ooh, I hate that. I hate how violent he is with it. It reminds me of the squirrel episode. It's dumb. I think that's the best way to describe this episode. It's really, really, really dumb. But it's not trying to be more than that. Is the conflict very artificial? Of course. Are they, trying to tell a bigger story? No. Nothing they have done is serving a larger element at play. It is just an episode of Family Guy. It is not breaking the formula. It only exists because of the 400 plus episodes that came before it that shaped the formula to what it is today. Lower G.I. Joe is the perfect encapsulation of modern Family Guy. It's on, you like Family Guy, you watch it. It is not your favorite episode. It is no one's favorite episode. I would argue not a single episode this season will ever be anyone's favorite episode of anything. Period. Watch Strip Law. It's just, it's nothing, man. It's just nothing. Lower G.I. Joe is a binocular accompanied 4 out of 10. Friend's best man. By now, anyone that saw my intro and liked this episode has already left, so we can boo them. Boo Wendy Chesterberger. No, this was a whole thing, and I would be very, very intrigued if anyone actually enjoyed this episode, because I don't think they're out there. I think you're fibbing. I think you're Fibonacci fibbing right there if you're telling me you enjoyed this. Let's go over the Peter and Lois story first. Peter and Lois decide to film themselves doing it and are not happy with the results. They realize they're old, they realize they're not attractive, they're hacking up lungs, they're wheezing. It's very real. And it really kind of cements that, hey, these are parents in their 40s, and they are not glorifying that. Where Stan and Francine are relatively in shape, and I believe in their 40s. They might have just turned 40, maybe late 30s. They are much better put together. They are also much better well off. It's just, they are very uncomfortable in their own skin. And they end up releasing this footage. And this footage becomes very popular. They become local, I guess, heroes. Because the video is so disgusting, it helps kids follow abstinence. Because they don't want to look like that. I feel like it's not, I almost feel like it's not mean enough. I feel like it was maybe 2 or 3 steps away from greatness. Just an opportunity to be really, really almost twist the knife horrible with Lois and Peter, because they have not been good characters this season. And I feel like that's kind of what they're doing here. Someone even pointed out, and I didn't even notice it until they did, there's been a severe lack of cutaways this season. They just aren't doing them. They'll move over to another scene, but it doesn't have the setup that other seasons had in the past. Like, oh, Lois, this is just like that time where X happened because of Y. You don't have that. It just cuts over. And I feel like Family Guy needs cutaways. It needs those buffers. Because if you're just cutting between these stories, it just sort of trips and falls and has to collect its teeth to go to the dentist and get them put back in. And it's a nightmare. It's not funny. None of this episode is particularly funny, and it doesn't really have any flow. But the one highlight of the episode is that the B story is cohesive and believable for Peter and Lois right now. And when that is the only compliment I can offer, that A story has to be incredible. Stewie is engaged to Rupert and decides he wants Chris to be his best man, and they send Brian around running errands while Brian is upset he wasn't chosen to be Stewie's best man. Now lock it in, gang. How do you think this episode's going to end? Where do you think this story could possibly go? Because, as sad as it is, it's pretty painfully obvious. I was really afraid. I told my wife, I was like, I think I know where this is going to go. I have a very good suspicion on where this is going to go. And I really don't want it to go in that direction. And then it did. Spoilers. By the end of the episode, when Brian confronts Stewie, Stewie reveals he did all of this to make Brian jealous because he wanted Brian to marry him so they could be together forever. Aww, the boy wants to be with his dog and have endless sleepovers and cuddle and be friends. Remember when Stewie got knocked up with Brian's kids just so that they would be closer together? Remember that? Remember that episode? That was like 12 years ago. That was not a recent episode, but it's one of the most infamous episodes in the show. And Stewie does this all the time. It didn't really need to be an episode. And Chris, being the best man, never really delivers. Now, here is where I am going to flip the script a little bit. Here is how I would fix this episode, and it's actually very easy. I'd make it an American Dad episode. Yeah, what? The academic likes American Dad and thinks this story concept would be better in that? Say it ain't so, but follow me here. The Peter and Lois, tape story, have that be a Jeff and Haley story. Have them realize that they need to get in shape. They're in their 30s. They need to figure this out, or 20s or whatever. Haley is millennial coded. You will not change my mind on that. But, have them be something that represents abstinence and have them feel super guilty about it and how lame they feel. Like, you could go all in on that. Granted, the Peter and Lois story, that's fine. That probably doesn't need to be amended, but it wouldn't make sense for Stan and Francine to feel that way. Instead, for the A story, have Roger be getting married, have them not see the groom, and have Stan be jealous that Steve is Roger's best man, because Stan famously very rarely gets to be best man. If anyone should be best man at Roger's wedding, it should be Stan. Have him try and sabotage it. Have him be convinced that the person Roger's marrying is just Roger in disguise, or that he's trying to, do a scheme by marrying someone. That's how we got Shari in the show. Like, there's ways you could very easily make this an American Dad episode, and it would actually work. Oh, all of this was just Roger doing a gag, and then he walks off and says that if he was actually ever getting married, he'd pick Stan to be his best man every single time? Works way better. Having Stan go and pick up all of Roger's college buddies that are way too young to have gone to college with Roger, and they all talk about how he slept with all their dads, makes way more sense than a baby. It's just, this episode doesn't work on, like, a base level. It doesn't shine in any noticeable way. There's only so many ways you can say an episode is bad, but this episode is bad. It's just not entertaining. It's baffling that we've gotten 24 seasons in and we're still getting this. This wasn't it, gang. This was not it at all. Friend's Best Man is a peel-removing 2 out of 10. And it's only a 2 out of 10 because I think as an American Dad episode, it probably would have been a 7 or 8 out of 10. Watch American Dad. Just have a ball. Watch more American Dad. Consume daddy. All right, you know what? Let's talk this episode because there's things to talk about with this episode. Yeah, what an intro to an episode, right? No, it's, okay. This is probably the most normal Family Guy episode of the entire season. And I hate that it's sort of a redo. There is no A or B story. There is nothing cutting away from the main narrative of the episode, which is different because there's not like a Meg and Chris story or a Stewie and Brian or Lois doing something. It is just the main events. But, and I can't believe I'm saying this, it really kind of works until it doesn't. The episode opens with everybody at the school while the school's getting rid of literally anything they can to try and meet budget. There, Peter finds a saxophone and decides that he's going to master playing Careless Whisper by George Michael and be so cool for the 80s. And that's our initial thing, and it's moments like this that really genuinely upset me. It's moments like this that are just so frustrating. Because this is classic Peter from like season 4, you know. This is him finding a onesie and going, I guess you could say they're shockingly expensive. Ha ha ha, decoys, Lois, decoys. Like, this is classic Peter. This is classic initial setup to an episode. This is Peter and the guys doing something stupid and leading into something. They're not parodying it. They're not making fun of it. That is genuine shenaniganeries for the sake of shenaniganery. Now, how much of the modern audience knows Careless Whisper? Like, I knew it when I heard it because I grew up in the 90s and like that wasn't too far off and everybody loved George Michael, but does Gen Z really know Careless Whisper? Do they really get the parody that's going on right now? No, probably not. This is for the writers, and this is for the, I guess, grandparents in the room at this point. Ow, my back. While playing Careless Whisper under a street light, Peter keeps Joe awake, and so Joe is desperate to get some shut-eye and starts taking sleeping pills. However, when he takes the sleeping pills, he's able to sleepwalk and starts hanging out with everybody as Cool Joe and talking about how vile peanut butter and jelly sandwiches are because he's a Mirror World version of Joe. It's just Joe's walking on air again. But it kind of works. Joe is basically a captive audience while he watches all of his friends and his wife love the company of Sleep Joe. Not the Joe that's, bombarding them with Snapple facts or needs to be timed so he doesn't just keep rambling on and on and on. And I really like the creativity at work here. I really like that they're leaning on Patrick Warburton to deliver a fantastic performance. The man is a vocal legend. He is why Venture Brothers is even half as good as it is. He is an absolute talent, and I adore anything he's in. Joe has been a phenomenal character, but they have just brutalized him into this sad cuckoo bird-esque man. It's bad. It's really, really bad. And this is a genuine moment to have a real Joe story, and they kind of do. You've got Cool Joe trying to stay asleep so that he's always out and always hanging out with everybody, and you have Joe constantly trying to break free and get control of his body, even if it means he'll be paralyzed again. On the one hand, it's an idea that only works as well as it does because it happened after so much of Joe just being put down over and over and over again, and on the other, I feel like this episode would have shined if it came out like 5 seasons prior where they actually had some, gas left in the tank and they could come up with something creative. Because the reason the guys want their normal Joe back is because this Joe is too athletic and trying to make them athletic as well, and they don't like having to work out with him. Which is exactly the same as what happened in Joe's Walking on Air. There had to be a better way to work it. There had to be a better way to do it. I guess it's different in the sense that Bonnie doesn't cripple him again. Like, she's not the one that puts him back. It's the guys pulling the old Joe out. And I guess I do respect that. I guess I do appreciate that. But it's just so whelming. I mean, it had so much potential until it didn't. And that just sort of breaks my heart. I saw a glimpse of that good Family Guy good stuff. And who knows? Maybe when we turn the corner, maybe when we see the season finale, it'll all make sense. Maybe this is a sign that next season will be going back to their roots. They're gonna be a little bit more creative with it. And, it's better than the Tom Brady episode. I'll give it that. If nothing else, this was probably the most watchable episode of the season. Let the Good Times Walk is an online community college attending 6 out of 10. High school history. It doesn't get better. It doesn't. none of it is better. None of this is good. Why do we keep doing this? Why do we stare into the abyss? We know something's going to stare back. We know we're not going to like it. After Brian has court-ordered community service for trying to deliver bed sheets to Jenna Ortega's house, he starts giving us history lessons. Okay, one thing that really bugs me about this episode, and it's very dumb, it's very stupid, feel free to hate me in the comments. In the beginning, Stewie's talking to tech support about his time machine, something that he very famously built himself. Now it's coming from someone else. And it's just like, why? Why include this bit? Oh, it's because you threw the back out of your teddy bear on top of the time machine that voided the warranty, huh? Okay. Ha 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 ha. Cool. It's just, I know that's people that'll go, oh, it's just a cartoon, bro. Lighten up. But it's like, that was kind of Stewie's thing. He built a time machine. Stewie's a smart guy. And I know they're questioning, how intelligent is Stewie nowadays? And it's like, I guess, sure. We're not really expanding our characters. We're just dumbing them down until they work for the narratives we have. And so yeah, that's this episode. It's 3 history lessons in an episode, and they're gonna parody it. Woo! Up first is the French Revolution, and this is kind of why I don't like when Family Guy does historical plots like this. Because I hate to say this, but I know people that genuinely get historical information from shows like Family Guy. So when you put in lines like, and the peasants are mad because they have spring and summer off and they have to work 4 whole days a week, and we should be allowed to tell them to eat cake because we have a cake surplus and therefore it's not a crazy thing to say. It's like, yeah, you're missing a lot of nuance there, like considerable nuance to this whole situation. But sure, when you boil it down like that, yeah, why not? Surplus of cake. Let him eat cake. Ha 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 ha. And that's all it is it's talking about, elements of this event in 6 minutes, kind of joking about it, kind of doing whatever else, and then cutting to Brian to tell us about the next event. Which, okay, first was the French Revolution. What's the second one? War of the Roses, America's fight for independence. No, it's the Civil War. It's the Civil War, so they can make more jokes and add in that Lincoln slept with a guy and do this weird John Wilkes Booth thing. And I'll say it, it's a little odd that you did another John Wilkes Booth thing when you did it earlier in this season with a few more ways to die in the West. You already did this joke. You just have Stewie as John Wilkes Booth now. Like, how? You have so much history you could go through. Why do you want to circle back and do that again? Doing your greatest hits. Cool, awesome, and here's Mayor Wild West playing the fiddle poorly, and ha ha ha, Ulysses S. Grant was an alcoholic. Everyone clap and laugh, eat your cake. We're gonna tell you to Google names. And it's like, oh wow, Lincoln slept with men? If only there was a better made Seth MacFarlane product that talked about that in the early seasons when it aired on Fox and was quote unquote more conservative. Check out Lincoln Lover, available now on Hulu. It's great. I love Lincoln Lover. It's a great episode. This? Crap. Actual crap. Guess what the third story is? You've watched a lot of Family Guy. I know you have. There's one thing that they will always go back to time after time after time. Did you guess World War II? Good. Your brain is working. Yeah, the third story isn't World War I. It's not, any other conflict. It's going right back to World War II. The one they always talk about. The one they have all the jokes for. And it really only boils down to 2 things. A parody of the 2004 remake of The Bunker, which is an internet meme from 2010. Kind of dipped in the middle there, so it's okay, sure. What are they complaining about? What's making Stewie, who plays a very prominent leader, German bad guy, crash out like Anthony Hopkins did in the 1981 version of the 2004 Bunker that everyone references and didn't know it was actually a remake? Did you guess The Sound of Music? Of course you did, because your brain works. And there's one thing they like referencing, it's Sound of Music, because Seth MacFarlane really likes Sound of Music, and I'm really tired of Sound of Music. It's so easy to do anything else, to create anything else. Vietnam War, Korean conflict, whatever, anything but World War II Redux, going back at it. We got a few more jokes we were able to wring out of it. And like the whole scene of Stewie being angry in German, it just gives the biggest okay boomer energy of the entire season. Wow, I should know who these people are. Maybe you should watch less TikToks. Okay. Quote a 2004 movie. Make a reference to a movie no one really gets the reference to, and pat yourself on the back for how awesome and cool you are. Got it. You weren't creative enough to not do World War II again, but you were creative enough to reference The Bunker. So there you go. Pats for Patrick. I can't. Let the Good Times Walk actually gave me an iota of hope in this season, and then High School History smacked me for having a smile on my face. It is a genuine disappointment of a season finale, of an episode, and overall shows that they just don't care. Family Guy is just sort of there now. They have a pulse, but they're sitting and watching daytime soaps and letting their body just wither away. High School History is, I don't know, 1 out of 10. Not worth your time, actually. Not worth your time. Not applicable. No score. And there we have it. That's my review of season 24. Anything you think I was right on? Wrong on? What was your favorite episode? Least favorite? Let me know in the comments below. And if you like what you saw, consider liking, subscribing, hyping, and telling your friends. We're out here. Season 24 was there. It was just kinda there. Like, I haven't talked about the show on the channel too much, but I've followed the show since the 90s. Like, I have been a diehard Family Guy fan. I have watched every episode that's come out, and season 24 was, it was just boring. It was just a very hollow and genuinely empty experience. And, like, I'm not trying to bash anyone that enjoyed this season, but it's just not anything. It's not risque. It's not overly graphic. It's not controversial. It's not anything. It's redone plots and anthologies that mock you because you have to Google who a historical figure is. Ha 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 ha. Or we have to explain the joke. Ha 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 ha. Or here's a joke we made about Lord of the Rings 15 seasons ago that we'll say again because we know you liked it and clapped. Ha 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 ha. It's dull. It's boring. It's really kind of sad. American Dad has a completely incredible new season. Bob's Burgers was perfectly fine. Family Guy, they just don't care. They're just doing it for a paycheck, and you can tell. Oh man, Joe's walking on air and Patriot games back to back. What a riot. Yeah. I can't pretend to care, gang. And, like, I know that'll get me a bunch of hate from people like, if you don't like the show, maybe don't talk about the show. But it's important. Because Family Guy is an institution. Family Guy shaped my sense of comedy. It shaped your sense of comedy. And this stuff needs to be talked about. I want to like new episodes of Family Guy. I want there to be that hearkening back to a simpler time, to, that creative writing that made the Golden Age so good and so memorable. I want there to be that new renaissance where people are absolutely adoring Family Guy again. but there's a good reason they're not. The passion just is not there. If the passion was there, you wouldn't have 3 anthologies in a season, and I'm pretty sure there was 4. Out of a 15-episode run. You had less time, you could have done more. Best episode? I guess A Few More Ways to Die in the West, just because it was a little creative and seemed like they cared. Worst episode? Ah, man, I mean, it's a pretty wide option there. I guess it would probably have to be Friend's Best Man, but High School History's down there for me too. It wasn't anything. And that's I guess what we're just going to have to take from Family Guy now, that it's there. Anyway, that's going to do it for us here at the Lecture Hall. Hey, if you want to support the channel, consider joining our membership or Patreon programs today. $2 a month gets you your name on this fancy list of awesome, cool champions that totally pop their collars when they walk into places. And everyone's like, wow, look at them. Look at how cool they are with their popped collar. Thank you all so much for watching. Like always, stay strong, keep fighting that good fight, and know that I'm proud of you. Even if you just woke up this morning, even if you don't feel like there's anything to be proud of, I'm proud of you. I'm just so grateful you're all around. Thank you so much to the people that have made it this far, in the video, in the channel, in life. I really appreciate you guys. And that just can never be overstated. So I hope that you're all doing okay. Remember, a rising tide lifts all ships, and I can feel one hell of a wave a-coming. Goodbye, everybody. And I'll see you all next time.